Hi everyone, my name is Jeff, and I am a constituent of New York State's 23rd Congressional District, covering the western New York and southern tier regions of the state. Throughout these first weeks of Donald Trump's second term in office, I, like so many other Americans, have grown so frustrated and angry at what I'm seeing take place within our federal government. To combat this, like so many other Americans, I've decided to exercise my American right to oppose any government actions I find to be harmful by contacting my congressional representatives' offices and ensuring that they are documenting the concerns of their constituents. After winning his re-election bid back in November, Republican Nick Langworthy is now serving his second term in Congress as representative of New York State's 23rd Congressional District. It doesn't take much effort to find out who Nick Langworthy truly stands for. His website has an outline of his goals within Congress, such as lowering inflation and the cost of living, protecting constitutional rights, protecting taxpayers, confronting big tech, and something that says, quote unquote, save and strengthen Social Security and Medicare. Interesting. However, a closer look at the details between these goals prove that Nick Langworthy's talking points are nothing more than a copy and paste out of the Donald Trump Republican playbook. In fact, a portion of Nick Langworthy's website even spells out that he ran for Congress to stop what he called the disastrous Biden-Pelosi agenda. This is far more representative of Nick Langworthy's actions in his congressional terms. He seems to be nothing more than a mouthpiece for Donald Trump and his new Republican Party. And this can be backed up by a quick look at Nick Langworthy's social media pages. There is some content of him working with constituents, but not much. A fun visual description of the majority of Nick Langworthy's social media content would be a cartoon of him dropping to his knees, opening his mouth as wide as he can, and looking up to Donald Trump and saying, "Do what you will with me, sir." With that said, it should be no surprise that, at least in social media spaces, constituents of New York's 23rd District seem to be growing more and more frustrated with Representative Nick Langworthy, myself included. After calling all of his offices multiple times a week on many different topics, I was starting to think I would never hear a response from the congressman. However, just the other day, I received a letter from the congressional offices of Nick Langworthy responding to my very first phone call where I outlined my concerns about Elon Musk and Doge. Though I should not be surprised, this letter contained no meaningful response to one of his constituents' actual concerns. I took the time to call Nick's office and made sure I was polite and outlined in a calm way what my thoughts were on this situation. The letter contains nothing that actually addresses my real concerns. What it does contain, as you will see, are talking points once again repeated from Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and other Republicans in Congress who are looking to shut down the voices of their constituents. Today, I'm going to go through this response from Nick Langworthy with all of you. We are going to go through all of his talking points, all of the lies, all of the misrepresentations that essentially show us that Nick Langworthy has no interest in the concerns of his constituents of the 23rd District of New York State and is only interested in preserving Donald Trump's dictator-esque run in the presidency. The letter begins by thanking me for calling his office to express my concerns regarding Elon Musk and Doge. And he says he appreciates the opportunity to respond. Me too, Nick. Me too. He goes on to talk about President Trump signing the executive order to establish Doge, and also about how he named Elon Musk the head of Doge, which seems to be a point of contention right now within the government as well as the court systems, who are looking to get a grasp on exactly what Elon Musk and his team have been doing. Recently, Republicans talked about how they named Amy Gleason as the administrator of Doge after being unable to answer that simple question prior. It doesn't take much research to understand that this is a glaringly obvious attempt at keeping Elon Musk protected from being called in to testify about his actions. Then in the next paragraph, we see Nick Langworthy really start to pile on the misrepresentations and lies as he begins to talk about the American people who, through both the popular vote and the Electoral College, overwhelmingly voted for President Trump and his agenda in the 2024 election. He talks about reining in excessive federal spending and ending diversity, equity, and inclusion, of which I'm not sure he actually knows anything about. At the end of the paragraph, He goes on to say that DOGE does not eliminate funding by itself, but provides recommendations to the president, which, again, doesn't seem to line up with what we see happening before our very eyes. But what I really want to talk about is Nick Langworthy, along with other Republicans' assertion, ridiculous assertion, I might add, that President Trump has a mandate to do everything he is currently doing because of his overwhelming victory through the popular vote and electoral college in the 2024 presidential election. So let's take a look at the facts, Nick Langworthy, because this is a lie. It's a massive lie. It's so ridiculous to claim that Donald Trump has a mandate to do anything after he barely scraped by. So if you don't do any actual research into the numbers behind the election, you might actually believe, based on pictures and graphs, that it was overwhelming. And that's what they want. The unintelligent thing to do is look at colors on a map and say, wow, that's overwhelming. But the intelligent thing is to look at the actual numbers and the margin of victory that Donald Trump had in the 2024 election, which shows, once again, that it was no landslide. There is no mandate. Nothing was overwhelming. Let's see what the numbers have to say about Nick Langworthy and other Republicans' claim that Donald Trump's overwhelming victory in the 2024 election provides him with a mandate from the American people to do everything he is doing. Let's take a look at the popular vote first. And if you were on Nick Langworthy's telephone town hall the other night, you know that when a gentleman brought up the popular vote win margin, Nick Langworthy tried to pivot pretty damn fast away from that to the electoral college margin. And don't worry, Nick, we'll get to the electoral college. But let's take a look at the popular vote first, the actual number of citizens who voted for Donald Trump. In the 2024 presidential election, Donald Trump won the popular vote with a 1.5% margin of victory. Ready for some facts, Nick Langworthy? That 1.5% margin of vote is the fourth narrowest gap since 1900. It is the 19th highest popular vote win margin of any Republican victor in history. Again, just so I make sure you know that you're hearing me, Mr. Langworthy, it was only the 19th highest popular vote win margin out of any Republican in U.S. history. And then for the cherry on top, out of all 55 U.S. presidential elections where the winner of the popular vote also became president, 49 were won with a popular vote margin bigger than Trump's in 2024. Once again, let me repeat this. Out of all 55 presidential elections in U.S. history where the winner of the popular vote also became president, 49 of them were won with a bigger popular vote margin than Donald Trump had in 2024. So as we can see, if we're looking at the popular vote, Donald Trump just barely got by. It was a tiny margin of victory. But Nick Langworthy the other night showed that he doesn't really like to talk about the popular vote and wanted to immediately pivot to the electoral college. Yes, that's where this landslide was, right, Mr. Langworthy? Let's check this out, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump won the 2024 presidential election with a 16% margin of victory in the electoral college. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, 16%? That sounds a lot higher than 1.5%. And you would be right, it is higher than 1.5%. However, consider this. It's only the 20th highest margin of victory in the electoral college of any Republican victor in U.S. history. That's right, out of any Republican in U.S. history to ever win the presidential election, Donald Trump's 16% margin of victory from the electoral college ranks 20th. And this is my favorite one. This is where it really all comes together. Out of all 60 presidential elections in American history, we're talking every presidential election, out of all 60, Trump's electoral margin of victory in 2024 ranks 44th. 44th out of 60. One more time, just to make it extremely clear. In all 60 presidential elections in U.S. history, all of them, Donald Trump ranks 44th with his 16% margin of victory in the Electoral College. 44th out of 60. There is no landslide. Nothing about this is overwhelming. There is no mandate from the American people so large that Donald Trump needs to do everything he's doing right now. You are simply using this lie as justification for stripping down the federal government and ignoring your constituents' concerns. And that, my friend, is a horrible thing to do as a representative of the United States of America. Who do you work for, Mr. Langworthy? I know who your donors are, and don't worry, we'll get to that at some point. But who are you really working for? Because it certainly isn't your constituents. If Donald Trump's victory in the 2024 presidential election was as overwhelming as you claim it to be, to the point where he must, no matter what, because of how many people and how big his victory was, do everything he's currently doing, then the numbers would reflect that. And they clearly don't. This is a lie. Nick Langworthy knows it's a lie. Republicans know it's a lie. And they are using it as justification to ignore constituents and shut down the federal government. It's as simple as that, folks. The remainder of the letter sees Mr. Langworthy go on to address DOGE and USAID specifically, and Mr. Langworthy once again spews out lies and misrepresentations of what he calls wasteful federal spending at USAID. He also talks about how he wants to make sure that we can continue funding for critical programs like Social Security and Medicare. And he also talks about upholding the Constitution and ensuring our government uses our tax dollars responsibly. Now, between the lies and misrepresentations of what he calls wasteful spending at USAID and talking about spending our tax dollars responsibly, I felt that all of that would really require one big video rather than adding it on to this one. This is just an introduction, Mr. Langworthy, to someone who feels like actually calling you out on all of your lying and your misrepresentations and your failure to uphold your duty by representing your constituents. Nick Langworthy, do your job. Thank you so much to everyone who took the time to check out this video. If you liked the video, please like and comment and share it onto social media sites. I would really like to be able to get this information out to people, especially within the 23rd district, but even on a broader scale, because I think our situation here is a situation that people all over the country are currently facing. If you would like to see more videos like this, of which I will be making as soon as I can, please subscribe to my channel. And again, thank you so much to everybody out there. We will get through this. This is a tough time, but there are constituents out there who are doing so much that it inspired me to go ahead and make this. So I'm hoping that maybe I could do that for someone else as well. And with that, I will just say, go forward being kind, spread love, take care of each other, and know that you are appreciated.